Today, we are talking about a little known secret on how to get free inbound leads so you guys can get as many chances at a wholesale deal. Now, if you are short on getting your first wholesale deal or you don't have one yet, please pay attention to today. This is something I actually found out by accident. And then once I actually figured out how to do it, I take you step by step on how to pull the arrest records. And a lot of you going like, what are you, crazy, Rick? I don't want to do arrest records. Listen, we need motivated sellers. And what better motivation than in the arrest records? Yes, I have done a lot of deals through the arrest records. To be full disclosure, I did them by accident at first. And just like probates, I figured out how to do them on purpose. I'm going to show you the step-by-step method on how to do it. It's actually really simple. And I'm going to show you what you have to actually watch out for. I'm going to tell you the pros. I'm going to tell you the cons. And we have not stopped using this technique since I figured out the arrest records. And here's the really cool part. It is much simpler than probates. It is much simpler than most of your government lists. And my favorite part is it's 100% free. So if you don't do this and you jump on a live with me and say, Rick, I'm struggling to get a deal, is the first thing I usually ask people, are you doing the arrest record? So we'll go into it. It's honestly one of the easiest ways you can do it. There's some really cool things about it. There's some things you need to know about it. And I'm going to walk you through my 21 years experience and how I do the arrest records. Arrest records, yes, they're the freest inbound leads you want to get. Now, you can determine if you want them inbound or outbound. It doesn't matter. So the difference between, listen, the same person trying to put their name all across the board and fill it up, it's not going to work. So please stop doing it. You're wasting your time. And I promise you, I will cut the stream off if you keep doing stuff like this. So I know exactly what you're doing. Just stop. You're wasting your time. So arrest records can be inbound, outbound, depending on how you attack them. So why do I like arrest records? I already told you. It is the absolute highest motivation. Think about this. If you're going to jail and you own a piece of real estate and you're going to go away for a decent amount of time, 2 years or more, on average, what are you going to do with the piece of real estate? So the odds are if you leave it vacant, somebody still needs to take care of the grass. They got to pay the utilities. You got to pay the insurance and you got to pay the mortgage. Most people cannot handle that. Now, here's the challenge that you have to deal with arrest records. The motivation's through the roof because you know the exact time they've got to get the property sold by. And that deadline of their court date or their sentencing date or their jail date is the reason why you will get probably one of the best deals on it. Now, keep in mind, they don't have time for a realtor and they definitely don't have time to wait for a family member to bail them out, because if a family member is going to bail them out, they probably already did that and burnt that bridge posting bond. So bonds when they get up with the money to get them out of jail. Now, here's the downside. You ready? The biggest downside is arrest records have a lot of drama. So not a lot of people believe their story or will listen to their story. Here's the trade-off. When it comes to arrest records, you actually have to listen to their story. It's very dramatic. There's a lot of drama filled, and there's always some sort of crazy girlfriend or ex-lover, or my kid did this, my dad did that, my mom never treated me right. You just have to endure it. That's all I'm going to tell you. I have never done an arrest record that did not have a lot of drama. Now, it doesn't mean you have to take everybody. So a lot of you are probably like, well, what type of arrest records do we need to do? I'm going to get into that. So I'm going to give you one big disclosure you have to understand before we do arrest records. I have one basic rule. And if you break this rule, I promise you it's the end of your wholesaling. You ready? You cannot do creative financing with arrest records. Why? I've watched these. You have 100% nightmare probability. Why? Think about this. Somebody gets arrested. They're found guilty. They go to jail for 3 years. They meet with someone like you and they go, hey, can you buy my house? Awesome. Say you didn't come to terms and you came up with a creative solution, probably like a subject to. You give them X amount of dollars up front. You take over the payment. The house is yours, right? You even deed it over in your name or your company. Awesome. You got a great deal. You're on cloud nine. It's great. The guy gets out of jail or the gal gets out of jail. And guess what? They go straight back to that house and in their mind, they own it. And you have to deal with the consequences. And if you had a renter in there or a owner occupied in there, it's going to be really bad. And I've watched this over and over with friends through the business. And they all came to the final conclusion saying, don't ever do a creative financing like a subject to or anything like that on an arrest record, because it never mentally sticks into them. And they think that's just a temporary rental and they're going to come back and want their property. And even if they did agree to the terms, they always come back 100% of the time. Guys, just hear me out. When it comes to creative financing, do not do it when it comes to arrest records. It doesn't work. It's going to blow up in your face, and I'm telling you up front. They love creative financing because they get money up front and they believe in the back of their mind they're getting their house back. So I want you to avoid that pitfall. Repeat after me. No creative financing when it comes to the arrest records. Now, let's talk about this. Why does nobody ever talk about the arrest records outside of like really me and Zach? The reason is it's not a super sexy way to get deals. And honestly, it's very simplistic. So let's talk about how do we get the arrest record. So number one, you have to search the online law enforcement. How do I do that? This is so much simpler than probates and code violations and tax delinquencies, all the other lists we tell you to go out there and earn. This is simply a search. So I always start from a county search. So whatever county you're in, I don't care if you got pulled over by the popo or not, but you all know if you have a sheriff in your county, or if you're in a local city, you have a local police department, and you got to decide. So now you might have both. Okay. This has nothing to do with the highway patrol. So you want to search your online. So if I lived, so where I live is basically in St. Lucie County, they have a St. Lucie County sheriff and they have a Port St. Lucie police department. So the first one I like to search, which is usually the bigger of the two, is the sheriff's office. So depending on how your area runs, either the sheriff takes over for the county and they run that entire county, or you have cities that take over their policing, and what I'm trying to get at is you can use both. They both have to follow the exact same law. It just depends on who's responsible for it. So the first thing you have to understand is, are you operating with a sheriff's office or are you operating with a local PD? There is no rhyme or reason which one's better. Usually the sheriffs are much bigger, so they'll have a bigger database. So it's much more, in my opinion, it's much more convenient to use the sheriff. So hopefully you're in an area where the sheriff takes over everything. But a lot of times cities take it over. Don't ask me why. I don't know how people do any of this stuff, but it all comes down to money. So make sure you're looking at multiple police departments when you're pulling arrest records. Now, this is all from the state and below. I don't do any of the federal stuff. I have no idea how to do it. And honestly, that's not how this works. So the local county sheriff's office, and then you want to do your local police department. So as I said, I give you an example of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office and then the St. Lucie Police Department. Those are the two main ones I draw from. Now, when you get small cities, there's tons of them around you, but the problem is they don't have a huge database of arrest records, and it can get tedious if you're working with 5 or 6 different police departments like I do, but that is the name of the game. And remember, each sheriff's office is different. So if you have a sheriff in this county, and then there's a sheriff in this county, they're completely different law enforcement sites you go to. Now, whenever somebody gets arrested, get the local in there, it is simple. It throws it out there. It's all out there, and it's public record. So if you've ever been arrested, thank the Lord I haven't been, and I should have been when I was younger because I did stupid things, it's very public. So first thing, I could care less what the mugshot looks like. If you guys are looking at mugshots and deciding who you're going to call, you're literally wasting your time because you're trying to judge a book by its cover, and it doesn't work that way. So understanding you just want to get the raw records. Now, let's get down to the criteria of the arrest records. And it's important you understand this. Now, the only reason I know this is because I've done this so long and I know the typical case that comes up. Now, I've had some crazy people reach out to me that have been arrested to try to sell me their home. I do not pass judgment on people when they're arrested if I want to buy their home. Just like in probates, I do not hold people accountable for whatever family issues they have. And by the way, if you do wholesaling long enough, you'll know exactly what I mean. People have stories. And remember, our job is to hear people out, help the seller facilitate the transaction, and take over the property. And either we keep it for ourselves or we sell it to a cash buyer via assignment contract. You cannot get into the judgment zone because I don't do that. I just know that the arrest records gives me an opportunity to tickle a motivated seller to have the ability to buy their house. And you have to stay in that zone. I've had the craziest stuff come up. Now, what I'm going to do is give you the criteria of what you need to ask for when getting this arrest record. So simply pull up that site. Now, in the beginning, you can call and get help to get the classification of the arrest records. Now, the law states that arrests have to be posted online unless it's a sensitive case. That is the exception, not the rule. So it's really not that hard to find this information. So if you're complaining about inbound leads and you're not going to go pull your local arrest records and you tell me you've done everything you can, I'm going to call you to the table on it. So The first criteria, just ask for the arrest records for the last 30 days. Hopefully you can pull it online and you don't even have to make this stupid phone call. But if you're in one of those counties where you have to make the call or you can't figure out how to navigate the website, which I've had that happen multiple times to me, call and ask for help. Remember, the people that work in these departments, they navigate these websites every day, so they know exactly how it works. And so you might as well go ahead and utilize their knowledge. So they're the gatekeepers. You might as well just go ahead and use it. So if you're a guy, stop being embarrassed and just pick up the phone and call them. It ain't going to kill you. And honestly, it's going to save you a ton of time and aggravation. And that's the first thing that I'm going to do when I do it. Now, what do you need to know? Oh my God, this is a loaded question. So what's up, guys? Hey, make sure you guys introduce yourself in the comments because I'm about to jump over there and spend some time in there. So what do you need to know? And the reality is you just need to know a couple of things. You need to know the arrest records get the last 30 days, and you need to reach out and contact and find out if there's motivation. The rest of the stuff between you and me, it's all drama. Now, I'm going to fill you on some of the drama details to get rid of your curiosity because I know you guys thinking like, what am I into when I deal with somebody when it comes to the arrest records? Number one, first of all, don't ever go to a property or somewhere that makes you feel uncomfortable. Definitely don't go at nighttime. And if you're a lady, I prefer you bring a male with you. That's just common sense. That has nothing to do with wholesaling. It is common sense. So once you understand that, then you can avoid some of the pitfalls. And by the way, realtors have to deal with this stuff all the time. People set you up for crazy things, but for the most part, the really cool thing about an arrest record, you can verify their story online after you hang up with them. So it's hard for them to punk you creating a fake arrest record to set you up for something horrific. So when it comes to the arrest records, they really can't make this stuff up. Either they did it, either they were arrested and they have a pending issue, and it's actually very simple to verify online. Now, what was I going to tell you here? I want you to understand this. Don't freak out when I put this one up there, but it's the truth. You can go to jail visits to do paperwork. I know a lot of you go, oh, I'll do the e-sign, I'll do the docu-sign. Occasionally it works, but a lot of times we have to go to the prison to get paperwork signed. Now, during COVID, it was an absolute nightmare. One of the worst experiences I've ever been through in my life. The challenge is sometimes if you're the owner of the company, you have an LLC, or you wrote the contract in your name, you have to be the one that shows up. You can't send an employee. And this has happened to me so many times. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. It takes a lot of time. You got to set the appointment. You got to go through a metal detector. You get heavily patted down and you are eyeballed the entire way. And they run you through a database to make sure you're not a risk to anybody else in the jail. So, but once you get there, it's no big deal. They're actually normal people. And the only difference is they got caught doing something and you're just trying to help them out. So don't freak out if you got to go to the jail. It is not the end of the world. Doing it outside of COVID is much better. During COVID, it was a nightmare. So sometimes you have to go get what we call that wet signature, meaning the only way you can do it is go visit them. And a lot of times you go, well, I'm going to send my assistant. I'm going to send you can't send your VA, but like somebody to help you out, you can't. If your name's on that contract, you signed it, you have to go with them. They do not like third parties showing up. And by the way, it's very tough to get a notary inside the jail. You really got to make special accommodations for it. So don't freak out about going to the jail. It's not the big of the deal. I used to have like heart palpitations over there. It's actually very interesting and you'll learn a lot. So look at it as I'm not going to say a fun experience, but it's part of the business. It's not a big deal. And if you're doing that, it means you're very close to getting a deal signed. So that's good to go. Now, let's talk about the type of arrest. This is very simple. Don't screw this up, okay? Once again, I am not here, nor are you here, to make judgments on why people got arrested. Honestly, it's kind of none of my business. Now, you ready for this? I've actually written a contract for somebody on death row. And I got to be honest with you, it freaked me out. Now, I did the whole thing virtually. It never worked out because the man was a psychopath for an obvious reason, but I didn't pass judgment for it because it's none of my business. Now, I was never going to meet this person in a private anywhere because obviously, who wants to meet someone who was put on death row because some bad things happened with that one. But I'm here to tell you is you can't make judgment on what people are arrested for. You're wasting your time. Once they're in jail, they're as safe as they humanly can be for us. So that is the time we deal with them. Before that, these people are walking all amongst you and you don't even know it. Heck, you could be at dinner and have an axe murderer sitting right next to you and you would never even know. So don't freak out out about that. Now, what I'm going to do is run through the most common types of arrests we deal with of people who sell their house. Don't judge them. It doesn't matter. The reason I tell you is you can keep your eyes out for it, so you know you're on the track record when you're chasing down inbound leads for arrest records. So the first and foremost, this isn't a wild guess, it's mostly DUIs. Now, you're thinking, Rick, you're telling me a DUI, people go to jail. Listen, the first time you get a scotch-free, by the way, I've never been arrested for DUI. I've bought a lot of houses of people in DUIs. The second or third time you go to jail for 1 year because they're trying to teach a lesson. Let's face it, we don't want people out there drinking and driving and killing people. It happens every day, unfortunately. So I agree with the law on how this set up. Once you get your third or fourth offense, if you get past like blowing in the breathalyzer to start your car, you got to ride a bike to work for a year, you got to get special permits, and you get all that back and you get out of jail and you get caught again, it's big time. It's usually 5 to 10 years after that per offense. And they keep stacking it up. And then they'll take your license away forever. Now, these are the most common ones I deal with all the time. A lot of these people have big time habitual problems. Once again, I don't get into people's personal lives. I just try to keep mine on course. And for somebody who doesn't drink alcohol anymore, like I get it. You see people get in messes in their lives. And I want you to understand, I don't judge people for it. But once you hear DUI, I'm just letting you know you're definitely on the right one. It is by far 80% of the most common type of house I buy when people get arrested multiple times for DUI, because it's hard to take care of the house. It's hard to pay the mortgage. It's hard to pay the utilities. It's hard to pay the insurance when you keep going to jail. And when you leave to go to jail, they know their house is going to be taken over by either family, friends, or enemies. That's why their motivation is through the roof to sell those properties. It is literally that simple. Now, coming in at a hot number 2, if you guys want to make comments, let me know. What do you think the number 2 arrest record is that we buy houses from? I'm going to wait for comments because I love this stuff. Anybody, any guess? The number 2 for arrest records for wholesalers buying their house. Anybody? Come on. You're going to make me throw it up there. Drug offenses. It's close. I wish it was that. DV. I'm not sure. Oh yeah. Okay. You're okay, now you guys are. It's not tax evasion. Anthony's got that run. DV, I'll give them, and I'll give Dream Chaser the same one. Unfortunately, we are in a world where battering domestic is the number 2 all the time. And so I agree with it. Like, my whole opinion is if you hit a woman, you should be arrested. Sorry. I know there's 2 sides to a story, but especially if you have children, you're married to a woman. If you can't get along with her, just get out the door. Don't touch them. So usually alcohol is involved or some sort of drug or something when this happens. Once again, we're not here to pass judgment. I'm just giving you the pattern here. So when you see the pattern come up, most of these people are only abusive to their significant others or their spouses. So once again, once they're arrested, they're not a big deal to deal with. Now, just like DUIs, they usually get 1 probation. And then after that, it starts compounding. After that, they get a year, then they get 5 years, then they get 10 years type of deal. And the sweet spot is once people have to go to jail 2 years or longer, they have to come up with a solution to take care of their real estate. Most of the times they decide to sell it because it's the freeing way. And by the way, some people say, hey, Rick, what happens to the proceeds when they get money before they go to jail? They can actually, believe it or not, still operate checking accounts. They can have a power of attorney to help them, but they can still move money in and out while they're in jail. Happens all the time. So battery domestic is right on there. Once again, we're not making judgments, but when people lose constraint and control or they have an addiction problem, you can see why this is predominant, why it comes out. If you guys ever watch Cops, it's either because someone gets a DUI or someone's being arrested for a battery. So we're going to come in at number 3, which is a hot one, which is actually, it's kind of a common sense one. But anybody wants to guess number 3, I'll put it out there. It's you have to think like, okay, why would people constantly be going to jail? Outside of stealing, we've already been over domestic. We've already been DUI. What do you think one of the most common thing is? And this is very interesting, but like it is factual. Why do I know it? Because I have enough data collected here. I'm telling you from the wholesaler side. Now, when you go to the police department, the statistics, probably theft would be up there somewhere on those. But honestly, I've never done somebody with theft on a wholesale house. Speeding. You really got to speed a lot to be caught in that. Child support's a good one. So child support, Jonathan's on something with the child support. It's not quite child support, but child support could be a product of this. And I'll tell you why. So I'm going to put it up there. You ready? Probation violations. And that means you could be arrested for everything. The court says, hey, listen, you are, if you do anything while you're arrested, while you're out on probation, you break one check-in, if you get caught drinking or doing that, you go straight to jail. Like you don't get your $200. So probation violations are huge. And you can get it can be almost for anything, but when you break your probation, a lot of times you'll go to jail to 1 to 3 years because they set strict terms in the court and you broke it and nobody trusts you. And then a lot of people go away for that. So whenever somebody's out, so a lot of people get probation on their first offense and they have strict terms. And the crazy thing about it is I have a friend of mine that's a probation officer and her job is to go and check on people in the middle of the night. And guess what night they usually go? Have a wild one. Saturday night. And they show up. And if they're not at that registered address and if they find them either drinking or doing drugs, it's a one-way ticket straight to jail. And that creates a lot of problems and people get court dates. And then they go, oh my God, I'm going to jail for X amount of years. What am I going to do? And so either they reach out to you or you reach out to them. We're going to talk about how to do that. And then that's how these leads go. It's actually really simple. And I'm here to tell you, I got a lot of people on here. I know you guys fight to get the government list. And the really difficult list, probates, water shutoffs, and code violations are challenging. This list, it's really not that hard. It's not that hard. And the really simple part is once you get the property record, okay, let me go back up here. Once you go and get your search for the last 30 days, you just need to go over to truepeoplesearch.com or you can use Batch or you can use listrei.com. Get that phone number and then you just call. And listen, please don't say, hey, listen, I saw you just got arrested. Can I buy your house? I always act blind when I'm talking to these people. Hey, I buy houses for cash in the neighborhood. Are you open to me buying your house for cash? Because if they think they need cash, they need to get the house sold, bing, 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 it rings. It's actually, you're creating, you have the preparation. That's the opportunity. You just got to give them the grade. Is everyone going to agree? Absolutely not. But I'm telling you, these lists are not huge. I wish it was thousands of people. It's a very short list. How often you pull the list? Once a week. Really simple. And Monday's probably the best day to pull. Why? Because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the nights everybody mostly gets arrested and does stupid things. So listen, everyone's entitled to, I don't want anyone to get arrested. I don't want to do any of this, but I'm telling you, it is a golden opportunity if you go help these people out. And I'm here to tell you, it is an often overlooked technique. So real simple, guys. You go to your local police department or your sheriff, depending on the county or the city. You ask for the last 30 days records if you got to do it by phone or in person, or you can just pull it up online. And then you pull people that got arrested. You then cross-reference to see if they own property in that given county or in the area you're in. It's just like probates. If someone's deceased and you want to pull a probate, you got to make sure they own a piece of real estate. Is it a pain in the butt? That's the only skip trace. See if they own a property record. That's it. If you can't get that, then there's nothing to reach out to them. So how do we attack arrest records? Multiple ways to do it. So the 3 ways, actually, the 4 most common ways. A cold call is always going to be your most effective because it's the fast, quick way to do it. You just have to skip trace it. The other one is you can text them. Now, I know that these are both outbound leads when you do this, but it's extremely effective. The main thing when you do the text, you have to convert them to the phone as fast as possible because you got to figure out what's going on. And my other one you can do is direct mail, although they don't really open the mail a whole ton. So my favorite way to do it is reverse driving for dollars. Hands down the best way because you get free inbound leads and you only deal with the ones that need to be dealt with. And they tend to respond a lot better to a handwritten little note. So if you don't know what reverse driving for dollars is, go over to freewholesaling.com. I teach it in detail, but basically it's a sticky note you put on the door. It got a quick question about your house and you put your phone number and your name on there and they call you back. It's really that simple. So this is, in my opinion, the best way to get free inbound leads. It works very well. And I got to tell you, if you're struggling to get leads and you're not using this and you tell me you're doing everything you can, I have to call in the questions if you're being truthful with yourself. So remember, wholesaling is all up to you if you want to make it work. The question is you have to work it. I will give you the education. Me and Zach will show you exactly what to do, but it always comes down to you guys doing that.